Hello everyone, Ceri the Crafter here, that's Ceri the Crafter, and I'm here with a requested video. So, few apologies. First of all, there's bright sunshine, but I wasn't planning to film this morning, and I only have this morning to film. And the reason I have to film is, a couple of days ago, I filmed how to make these backgrounds, and where I got the inspiration from and everything. It ended up being a filming session where I had to do it in 3 lots. When I was transferring the video from my iPad to my MacBook, poof, it disappeared. Or at least one section did. I've not been able to find it, so I've now got to redo the video. So very disappointing, because I really loved how these turned out. And obviously, because it's a creative video, you can't just refilm a section because it's a process. So bear with me. Please bear with the sunshine. If there's one good thing, you'll see lots of colour and lots of light. So it's a winter's day here, so you never know, it may disappear, come in, come out. We don't know what's going to go on. So first of all, big shout out to ShanoukiArt on YouTube. I will link her channel down below. If you look down there, there's going to be a little V if you're on a device that you can see comments and see the, what's it called? The description box. If you click on that little V, it'll drop down, and I'll put Shanouki's art link in there. If I can find the actual video that inspired me in the first place, I'll find that as well, but no promises on that one, but I'll definitely put her channel in. I love the way she works. I like her creative mixed media style. I use, that's the wrong word. I'm inspired by her channel a lot, so I just want to give a shout out. Very talented lady. One of many out there, I may add, but I do like that. I used to do this process before, but I refined it after watching her. So there you go. So big shout out to her. So right, let's have a bit of a chat. So what do I use? Index cards, record cards. You buy them from your stationery, you buy them from your grocery store. Student shops sometimes have them because they use them for making crib notes on. Now, you can buy them plain on both sides or plain on one side, lined on the others, and sometimes they're lined on both. I just buy these. They come in a pack of 100. They're really inexpensive. They're not high quality craft card. They're just thicker than a bit of paper. But I always back my pieces. Let's have a look. I always back them anyway, so they end up as twice the thickness to start with. So I would normally, when I'm doing this, excuse me, I'm trying to not let you see this, which is my messy mat. So I put this down basically to make it a little more pleasant for you to see, hopefully. Now, normally I would batch make these in like 25 at a time, but because I'm conscious of the video length, I'm just going to do 6 of them. Okay, but just know that I do mass make to build up my stash of backgrounds in my ephemera box. And I do that purely because it's easier to decorate something if it's already started than to go all the way through the process. The other thing is that comments I've heard is, well, how do you know which colours to use? I use whichever colours I choose, and when I'm working on a journal I need ephemera, if I flick through all the variations of colour, I'm absolutely certain I will find one that will have a hint of that colour or complementary within it. So don't worry about that. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a white postcard, and I'm going to use this to mop up any residue or any excess ink that's left over, purely so that I have not wasted any. So we'll put those to one side. Right, I think I want to move this in a bit. Right, this is a ceramic tile. Let's have a bit of a readjustment here. Now, in all honesty, when I work doing this process, I use, wait for it, my Tim Holtz glass mat. But as you can see, the problem with using one of these glass mats, and it's not only this glass mat, other glass mats have a similar problem, you get to see all of the reflections. I personally find that really distracting when I'm watching a video, so I use these. These are big ceramic tiles. Go to my hardware store. I've had this one probably about, years I've had this one. And I bought a couple, and they were in like the end of line bin at my wholesalers, not wholesalers, at my retail outlet for building supplies. So I bought a couple, actually bought a couple smaller as well. 1 minute, need to cough. Sorry, bit of dust in my throat probably. So I use these. I also use these as an ink palette. It's sort of my way of avoiding using a plastic palette. I like to use these, so there you go. The other thing I've got here is hairdryer, and as you can hear, it's noisy. So when I'm using the hairdryer to dry, I will drop down the sound to 0 and I'll fast forward that section. Just know that I'm trying to make sure you don't get really annoyed with all the noises going on. So how do I start? And what do I use? I'm using ink pads. Now, it doesn't have to be a certain brand. It doesn't have to be a certain anything really. I'm just using ones that react well with water. You could do this with watered down acrylics. You could do this with watercolor paints. You could do there are lots of other ways to do it, but this is the way I like to do it because I rubber stamp as well. So, and these are the selection I'm going to use. Well, I'm definitely using the Vintage Photo by Distress Inks. The others, I'm not sure. I really like this Villainous Potion. It's a new one to me. I've only used it once before, so I might use that. Well, I will use that. I don't know about the others. So, right. First process is we need to get the ball rolling on this. So I've got a spritz bottle. It's just a spritz bottle full of tap water. I'm going to come in and I'm going to rub my ink pad. This is the Vintage Photo, and I'm just rubbing it down on there, and I'm going to activate it by just spritzing it with some water. Then what I'm going to do is I take my card and I give it a bit of a spritz. I drop it down, lift it up and drop it down on the surface. I'm not caring about what's happening with these. I don't mind if they stockpile up there. I don't mind if it goes onto the back. I believe Shanouki actually doesn't back hers. I like to back them purely for the reason that it gives me a bit more heft to the card in the first place. Also, it gives me the chance to cover up all of the background because I'm a bit of a messy worker, and I can guarantee it's going to be messy when I've finished. Right. I don't have a lot on here, but I'm just going to put it onto my cleanup card purely because I don't like waste, and ink's not the cheapest thing in the world, so if I can make an extra background along the way, I will do. So I'll just put this on. I don't know what that is. Okay, that's some grunge that was obviously on my tile. I don't mind. It's an extra bit of texture. Put this one to one side. I do want to clean this up in between so I don't make my colours really, really muddy. Now, something you'll note about the record cards or index cards or postcards, not so much postcards actually because they have a coating. These don't have a coating, therefore they tend to dry out reasonably quickly, but there is a saturation point. See, it's a bit of an overrun there. I'm just going to pat that onto its friend. There is a saturation point where these will get really, really wet. So that was my first bit. Right, now I'm going to start. I tend to work from the lightest colour to the dark. So if I go through the ones I've selected, my first layer will be yellow, my next will be orange, my next is likely to be green, the darkest is likely to be purple on top, and then I'm using Festive Berries just as an accent piece. So I do hope this line of shadow is not too distracting. It's slightly distracting to me, but hopefully the whole iPad thing will colour balance it. Okay, fossilized amber is a really powerful yellow, so I love it, but I do use it in moderation. Now this time round I'm not going to wet the cards because guess what, they're already wet from the first round. Now I'm just going to dip it in places. I don't think I put enough water on there. There you go. I'm not going to worry that I've got full coverage on anything. I'm just putting down layers. It's mixed media, guys. Well, that's the way I view it. So that means that I'll go in and there'll be layers upon layers upon layers in here. Pick that. So I hope you're all doing well. As you can see, it's a bright winter's morning here. A very, very bright winter's morning here, to be honest. It's not perfect conditions for filming, but I'm a real sucker for filming in natural daylight. It's suctioned itself down, which has its downfalls and then it has its benefits, because I feel that the colours I work in when I'm videoing are more of a true colour representation than something that's gone through an electronic system. Right, there you go, that's the wipe off one. So come in again with a bit of kitchen towel, kitchen paper, clean up rag, soft cloth, whatever you're using to keep your work area as clean or as possible so you're not cross-contaminating your colours. So orange, I want to come in with orange. Now in my mind, I don't normally make these with a specific journal in the background or a specific use, but I do think these are probably going to become part of fall ephemera, or maybe, sorry, autumn ephemera for my friends here in Europe, or it could become part of a Halloween project in the future. Now, there isn't a huge amount of difference in colour between the yellow and the orange here, and the orange I'm using is spice marmalade. However, I do like the subtleties of it. So, yeah, you heard it, the word subtle from me. So let's put that little bit on there. I'm trying to eliminate patches of white, but I'm not stressing about it. Right, it comes in my wipe up card. And obviously at the end of the process, this will just become a big journaling card. Right, bit of a clean up once again. You can see I'm just building and building and building, guys. So trying to show you the whole process from start to finish, all the way through. Right, we're up to, we've got to there. Okay, going to come in with a little bit of the green now. Now the green for me is more of an accent colour than a background colour. I love this colour peel paint. Thank you very much, Tim Holtz, for this one. I love this colour. So it's just the right green. And I don't know what I mean by that. Just know that I think it's just the right green. So I'm just going to come in, pick up bits, get some interest on there. Now there is a whole lesson to be learned about oxides and non-oxides and ink sprays and all that, and it's not my place to actually tell you all of them, purely because I don't get it all myself anyway. But I would say if you go to if you follow Tim Holtz on YouTube and on Facebook, he quite regularly does some brilliant lives where he'll spend 2 or 3 hours just explaining stuff and demoing stuff and showing examples, and I found that very useful over the time. Right, okay, we're getting to the point I feel where I may need to dry some stuff, but as I said, we'll do that with the sound drop down. So right, I'm at the point now where, what else do I need on here? I think I want to bring in the Villainous Potion. Now, I do know this is a dark purple, which is probably why I love it. It's a very dominant colour, should we say. A great pop of colour. So I'm going to water that down quite considerably and be a little cautious of where I dip this. So I tend to do it on edges and around the ends, purely because if I just dunk this right in the middle, I'm going to end up with a piece that's really dark, and it's going to be a bit of a nightmare to try and find a way of using it. But I do love it. You can see the character is coming in with these cards all the way along. You can also see what a muddy mess this plate is becoming, or this tile, and that's purely because, of course, all of the colours on here are water reactive, so they're all going to pick up and transfer onto there. So let's come in once more with my wipe up card. I love the magic of doing stuff like this, because you really never know what you're going to get. I think I want to make that a little more purple and a little less mud, so I'm just going to do that one more time. I may have put too much down there, but you'll see what I mean. So I just want to bring some real purple into this one. So I didn't want the muddy mess that was left there. Right, it's a pity to waste that, so let's see if I can grab another card. Okay, this one's just, there you go. This will just become my second mop up. So, well, this will just become a purple one, I think. So, just got a bit of interest on that. I might do something with that as we go along. I'm unsure. Right, clean up again. This is a bit of a messy process, guys. So if you're working in an area of your home that's precious, e.g. you've got white carpets or a white sofa, or you're working in the living room or something, just be really aware of having an area where you can get messy. I know that sounds like I'm preaching to the converted, but believe me, I've messed up stuff in my house before now because I didn't realise how fast stuff would travel. Right, one of the last things to come in is actually Festive Berries. I love Festive Berries for that absolutely pop of colour. And if anyone knows me out there, which you all do, I hate the word pop, but this colour just does exactly that. It just brings in a pop of a colour into this, and I love that pop of colour. Right, these are becoming very wet now, so I do need to be aware that it's getting close to having some drying time on these. I want a little bit more on there. Am I worried I'm going to contaminate my ink pad? Probably not, because to be honest, this is the only thing I use this ink pad for. It was a mini that I was gifted, and I thought, oh, I'll never use that, and I use it a lot. So, got that on there. Where's my cleanup sheet number 1? And let's see if I can just get a little bit on the purple one that I did, because purple and red are of the same family, so it's not going to look too weird on there. Okay, I'm quite liking that one actually anyway. Right, let's have last cleanup. Now, I think at this point, as I've got all of my inks on there, before I do anything else to this, I really would like to dry off these. Purely because I know that the fibres are wet, so I'm going to move this out of the way. We will be revisiting that later. Now, I'm going to do the whole hairdryer thing, and I can absolutely assure you the moment I turn the hairdryer on, most of this is going to blow off the counter anyway. However, I'm going to do my best to keep it in place. As I said, I'm going to edit the video so that this is all fast forwarded for you. Obviously, these two pieces need to be done as well. So bear with me, it's hairdryer time. When you see me do this again, it'll mean that I've come to the end of the hairdrying and I'll slow it all down. So we're back again, not too bad. They're not 100% dry, but they're dry enough for what I need to do next. So I'm just going to line them up, and this will all make sense in a second here. This isn't like a show and tell at school. There's actually a necessary process involved here. Right, now that I've got all of that in place, hopefully we're all in shot, I'm going to reach for a text stamp. Or I would if I could find it. I cannibalise all my stamp sets and I put them into packages that make logical sense to me, like this is numbers and text and stamps. I will group stuff, so I can't tell you what brand this is because I don't actually have it written down. I tend to just, if I'm not going to use a stamp, I don't keep the rest of the stamps. I either pass them on to a friend or put them into a Goodwill store or something. It's just, I don't like keeping stuff that means that when I'm hunting through for something, I'm going to hunt through 100 stamps before I find one. Right, let me just get, right, I'm using Black Archival here for this one. And I'm just going to come in, and what I want to do is I want to put little bits of random text. Now, the reason we're all lined up is I will do things like that. I will stamp across 4 at the same time or 2 at the same time, just because it stops me from putting too much text onto a piece, because I can be known to go a little bit overboard. And as Diane Reevely is known to say, a background is a background because it's a background. And that's exactly what this is. So that's just enough for me in the background there. Stamp that off. I'll keep this to one side because we might use it later on. In fact, I'm probably guarantee we're going to use it later on. Right, so we've got to this point. I'm going to move my 2 pieces. Actually, no, I need to leave them there. I'm having an out-of-body moment, guys. So there you go. Let's put those there, there, and there. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in. I've got a Distress Oxide spray. This could be a watered down acrylic. This could be something that I do with a paintbrush to do this. And I'm going to do sort of splatters on stuff. So I tend to use the end, and I want just a couple of splatters. And what I like about this is the ink will actually wick out or spread out onto the surface. So I've done speckled egg, and I'm going to do the same with the white one. Again, remember, this could just be watered down white paint, guys. It doesn't need to be this ink. Nothing I'm doing is specific to what I'm doing. This is just a techniques video. So, right. So that's put enough on there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video, or stop the video here, and then I'm going to come back when this is all completely dried off and have a bit of a clean up, and then we'll see what my next stages are. So bear with me, I'll see you in a second. So here I am back again. Right, they're thoroughly dried now. I mean, well, as dry as I can get them anyway. As you can see with the passage of this shadow, you can see a little time has passed. So let's have a little bit of a look at them. They are not finished yet. However, you can finish at any point. I mean, you may look at this and go, that's fabulous. I don't want to do any more. And you're right, or you're not right. It's completely you. You are an artist. Your decision is best. You know what you want to use them for. You could go, I want to stop there, Ceri, because I will do the next stages when I have a journal I need to go into. And you could be right in that. I, as I said, have no problem with that whatsoever. So the next stage I want to do is I want to put a little more visual texture onto them, just to give them a little interest. So I pulled out a bit of book page, a bit of music page, and I pulled out this, which I really love. And this is all I've got left from my print. This is a digital download by Gail Augustinelli. I will try to find the exact one and link it in the description box. When you print it off, it looks like this. I tend to print it off in coffee dye paper, and it looks like this. But it's a text I use all the time. It was something recipes, like 1905 recipes or something. A big shout out to Gail. Gail, love this one. Thank you for that. And I'm going to use them. So all I'm going to do is I don't want to decorate these. I just want to actually use bits of them. So I'm going to bring in a tear ruler because being OCD, I like my straight lines. I like my rectangles. I do want certain straight edges, however, to be able to do what I'm about to do. So, and I need smaller pieces, obviously. So tearing this down. So if you are enjoying this video, as I said, please go across and take a look at the one who inspired me to change my own process for this, because as I said, I loved what ShanoukiArt was doing with them. Some great mixed media projects over there. She does an art journal as well. She does Ephemera. Sorry, I keep calling her she because I don't know whether her name is actually Shanouki or not. I'm just assuming, and we know no one should ever assume anything. So let's just put a little bit of the white one on. White isn't really the colour I was choosing, but some of these are actually going to carry white okay, I think. Let's come across there. Okay, so I've got a nice little stash of stuff. I've got just a glue book, and I'm using just a glue stick at this point. So I'm not thinking, I'm just going to pull this in. I'm going to pull out a piece of paper or text or whatever I'm using, and I'm just going to stick this down. Now, I'm quite heavy-handed with my glue stick, so I'm not worried that things are going to fall off. They haven't in the past, so I'm not worried about that. I'm going to come in with another little bit on this one, because I think this one could actually carry two pieces and be quite good at that. You could leave them without anything on them. Absolutely your choice, not a problem. So, come on, come to me, glue book. There you go. So hopefully you're all doing well. Hopefully the world is treating you well at the moment. Hopefully it's all creative for you on all fronts. If there's anything I have to say about art, art is only good if you do it. I'm very aware that because I'm a bit of a perfectionist and I tend to procrastinate a lot, I like this process because what I tend to do is I tend to work quickly and I try to not think. Which isn't easy if you know me. I tend to overanalyze everything, but just this process of pulling pieces out and sticking them down is absolutely brilliant for me. I just do it. So I want a little bit of that up in that corner. And knowing that I'm not working to a final journal with this, it means that I'm just making backgrounds and not having to make a decision about what I'm doing and where I'm putting it. I'll put glue on the wrong side. I'll scrape that off. So that'll stick there. Let's take that a little bit because it's just begging to be used. Do I put them in the corners every time? I tend to put them in the corners or on the edges, to be absolutely honest with you. And the reason for that is purely because if I put it in the middle, all of a sudden it becomes a focal point. And if the piece in the middle is a focal point, then I'm going to have to give it a focal point, if that makes sense to you. Because if I put a bit of text right in the middle of my piece, then I'm going to have to put something over the top or finish it off, because let's see if I can show you an example. So if I stuck that right in the middle, it has no reason to be there. It doesn't make sense. So even that way up, I feel I would have to put something in it or on it at that point. These book pages, by the way, are just going into a box and they get recycled later on, if I can recycle them. There is a playlist on my YouTube channel for what to do with old book pages. I add to it quite regularly as I come across ways to use old book pages. Right, when it comes to the big old one, what shall I do? Should I just might put that down in one corner. Let's tear that off there. You'll also note I'm not distress inking the edges of anything that I stick on here, because maybe the journal I'm putting them in may not require me to do that, or it may not be the style of the journal or the ephemera I'm using at the end. Right, I'm actually going to take a piece of the music paper at the same time. Remember, we're not decorating at this point, we're just creating backgrounds. That's something I have to keep saying for myself as well as you guys, because goodness knows I already go straight into decorator mode far too easily. That doesn't look like I stuck that bit down. Did you come down? No, I knew I didn't get you. There you go. Right, so let's have a little bit of a moment where I clear this away, because I'm now done with the glue stick and I've knocked it over. All of these little scraps will just go straight back into my paper scraps drawer. I have a drawer that is purely patterned and one that is purely plain. So, for example, this is the plain drawer, and where's the pattern one? And this is the pattern. Oh, I do have more of this. Okay, that's another sheet of that digital. There you go. Love the digital. Wish I wrote like that, because if I did, I'd be making digitals of my own handwriting, I can tell you. So, right, this is fine. The glue dries quite quickly, and if it ever peels up, I can just stick it down again. Right, another couple of stages to go. I'm just going to pull in that mat again, or tile again. So with that glue out of the way, because I know I'm going to knock it over. And I'm going to repeat step number 1. So I'm going to take my vintage photo, and this time I'm just going to put a top layer on these. So, and what I'm trying to do at this point is I'm trying to make sense of the elements pulling themselves into the background. See, now that's on there and there. That sort of anchors it down for me. Ooh, loving that one. So, and it doesn't always have to be across the ephemera. The piece I've just stuck on, text, paper, whatever. It just needs to be something on there that gives a reason for other stuff to be on there. It's beginning to dry out a bit on me. I've got the heating on in the house because it's obviously winter time here, and I'm not going to stand around in the cold. I'm going to make sure I'm warm and comfortable, because I'm lucky enough to be able to be. So put that in there. Right, this one I think I need a little more on there, because that's not going to make sense to me otherwise. Just a little bit more of that. This is one of these processes you'll go, oh, I don't want to waste that ink, and before you know it, you've got so many mop-up sheets on the go that it's crazy. You just end up generating and generating and generating. As I said, when I do this process normally, I'm doing it with 25 or 30 of them. Sorry, I just had an absolute, oh my goodness, the video stopped videoing. But it hasn't, it's fine, it's still flashing away. It's just in this sunlight I can't actually see the count on it. So, but hopefully it is doing it, or I'm going to be very, very upset. So, right, let me just stop this video. I do want to check that. Yes, it was recording. It was me just being paranoid. I've lost it once. I don't want to lose it again. Okay, now I've got to this stage. I really do think this can now go back to storage, or back where it lives anyway, because we're coming to the point where we're almost done now. So let's lay these out again. There's my original 6 plus the wipe up ones. So there you go. Right, now I'm going to use book page for this next bit. I'm not actually going to be using my palette. I'm just using this as a palette. Let's move that up and see if I can get that in shot there. I'm just going to come in with just some acrylic paint. This just happens to be one in a bottle. You could use one in a tube. You could use whatever you wish to use, to be honest with you. I'm just using an acrylic. I'm going to get myself a paintbrush that I can do a bit of splattering with. Where are my paintbrushes gone? They must all be downstairs waiting to be washed, which is normally where they're sitting. Actually, you will do. Right, just got a normal paintbrush. Going to come in. I'm going to spritz that water, just to spritz that paint with a little bit of water. I want it to be liquid, but not runny. Does that make sense? It needs to be a liquid that'll flick off a brush. I'm just going to come in and do a few splats like this. It tends to tie stuff together. It adds an interesting bit of contrast. I do like occasionally to turn my cards around so I'm splatting from a different direction. But if you're going to do that, just be really careful that you don't put your fingers in the black paint. You can do this with black ink. I just find that black ink sometimes, I wouldn't say fades, but it just doesn't stay as black as I want it to be black. Right, I think we're done with the black. That one looks like it just needs a couple of good splats. Okay, now at this point I'm going to stop the video, dry everything, clear everything up, change my mat and get ready to show you the next bit of the process. So literally I'll see you in a few seconds. So here we go again, all cleaned up, mat's all changed, got rid of all the inks, got rid of everything wet. My hands haven't had a wash, obviously, but there you go. So something I want to show you they dried out is, they dry out, and loving the fact the sun's gone away at the moment. The inks, although really potent and really vibrant when you first put them on, do tend to fade a little bit into the background. Okay, so don't be worried that, oh, I've made the card far too dark. You haven't. It's just, it's going to shade out a bit. Can't think what the word is. Fade out a bit, really. Okay, I said we were going to use this again, so I'm just going to come in, and now I'm just going to come in and look at the card and put just a little bit here and there just to tie things together. Now this has got quite a lot on this, so actually the only bit I'm probably going to do is just by there. But don't overdo it with the inking. Yeah, you can see I've got archival going on here. It's fine. It's a work mat. I'm not going to stress about it. I had it there. I think if I put it there, it would make a little more sense. I just like to tie things together. That one to me has got enough on it. I'm loving this tag, by the way. I know this was one of our wipe-ups, and this definitely needs a little more there for me. Oh, pity that wasn't straight, but there you go. Okay, so that's cleaning that up from there. Just a little bit of a damp cloth just to clean off any excess off there. I know it's archived little stick. Guess what? It's a black mat and it's black ink. I'm not overly worried. So my next step now is to actually put backs on this. So I've just pulled in some coffee dye paper. This was just a notebook that I actually just basically got hold of and just coffee dyed the entire thing. So I'm just using glue stick on this. Now I'm doing this with glue stick and I'm not being overly worried about it because I am going to stitch around these, and those of you screaming at the screen now going, but I haven't got a sewing machine. I'm going to show you alternatives as well. So I'm going to do two. Hopefully I've not stuck it down on top of the other glue. So I know that this actually, I can get 2 of these cards onto one of these pages. So I tend to put them quite close together. And that is because once they're cut, I can then save that bit for stamping on. So I do 2 at a time, turn them over, and I use the smoother, old store card, anything you're using. There are umpteen things out there, room keys, old credit cards. I'm filming this before Christmas, so of course there's always gift cards for Christmas, and that's just flatten them down. So put that to one side. So when I get these few done, bear with me. So let's see, what else can you do with these? Obviously you could cut these into tags, which is another thing I would do. Would I cut them into tags first of all? I might do, but by leaving them in this shape, when it comes to cutting them into tags, I can decide which is the top and which is the bottom, where I mean the cut edge of the tag or the base of the tag. And I like to have that because, say I was making this into a tag, which end would I want? Would I want to cut that off, or I want to cut that off? So it depends. I like to leave myself that option. And what have I wasted? I've wasted a tiny little corner piece of my index or record card. So could I do this in a bigger thing? Yes, you could. So say you went, right, I need to create myself a background that I then want to make labels out of. You could take a piece of A4, or what is it, depending on which country you're in, approximately 11 by 8.5 piece of paper, or I would probably say use a cardstock or a matte photo paper, something that's going to have a little more resilience than just like this, because that would just fall to pieces. If I did, sorry, not this, yes, that. If I was using something like copier paper, it probably wouldn't endure all of the wet processes that we've just put ourselves through. So just pop that on there. There's quite a good gluing window with a glue stick, meaning that it's not going to dry on you immediately like if I was using art glitter glue, which I wouldn't be using art glitter glue to do the backgrounds. You'll find that the gluing time is really quite quick because it grabs quite quickly. I've found that Fabri-Tac, which is the other glue I tend to use, it'd be good if that was actually on the bit of paper. Oh, that's a good one. Oh, see, I've just snapped that. That's how much I've used that one over the years. But you know what? Fear not, I have another one. So, wow, I've never broken one of those before. So, who knows why? Maybe it was a sign I needed to change it. So there you go. Right, how many more have I got? Am I going to get... Right, this one will just have to go on its own. So, now, as I said at the beginning of the video, I would do 25 or 30 of these at a time. Now, that's a day, okay, as far as I'm concerned. So you're going to spend the whole day working on this, so allocate the time to do it, if you're going to do that part of the process. The advantage of that is you end up with a whole ephemera box full of backgrounds ready to go. And these index cards, as I said, could be turned into tuck spots, they could be turned into pockets, they could be turned into tags, they can be turned into lots of different things. So it just gives you creative fodder, should I say. Okay, now this, because it's a postcard, if I'd have been careful with the background, I wouldn't need it to back this, because it's quite a stiff piece of card. But as you can see the mess I make on the back, I mean, some people wouldn't mind that. I personally, I can't live with that. So let's put the glue book to one side. Give this bit of a smush out. Now the reason I used one of these cards is to make sure that all of the air bubbles are worked out. Okay, everything's no longer in there. I need to go back in the glue book drawer. And the lid back on the glue. So let's bring back in everything I've just made. Excuse my reach across there. Now I just need to cut these out, which I'll just get a pair of scissors, obviously just a regular pair of scissors, cut them out. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew around the edges because I personally like that look. Now, if you didn't want to sew around the edges, and I'm conscious not everyone has a sewing machine, there are stitching stamps out there. Now, as you've heard me say, I don't always keep the backs, but in this case, I know that Stamperia is the red ones in here. The clear ones, I don't know who they're from, but I mean, you can stamp, you can do the stitches. The other thing you could do is if you get yourself a marker, you could just do a little dashed line around the edge of this, and that would be another option. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the video. I'm going to cut all these out, sew them, and bring them back to show you, and then I'll show you some examples of them that already have been done. Okay, I'll see you in a second. Okay guys, we're all back. As you can see, I've sewn them all the way around. I've done a variation of straight stitch and zigzag. Sometimes I've just done straight stitch, but as you can see, that really to me brings this to the foreground. So let's take a look at the ones we've just made together. So you can see they don't need much more than just a focal point. That was our mop-up one. And to be honest, that's probably one of my favourite ones. But all of these, I mean, that will look great for Thanksgiving, for autumn, for fall, for pumpkins, for scarecrows, for anything like that. Love that poppy yellow in the corner there. And for those of you who don't have a sewing machine, as you can see, I didn't sew this. This was just stamped. So, you know what? There's not a huge amount of difference. I mean, granted, this is a texture that I can feel and I can't feel that. But visually, not a lot of difference. I would say if you can get hold of some stitching stamps, if you don't have a sewing machine, this is a lot less expensive option. As I said, let's look at some of the ones that I lost from the last video, because these are the samples I made online, live with you on video, and then the video got lost. Apologies for that. But I tried to stay relatively within the same colour group and the same techniques. But as you can see, it's just interesting backgrounds. Now, the white and the speckled egg really fade into the background, which is what I was wanting. If you want the intensity of the pigment, then you can do what I did there with black acrylic. You can do it with white acrylic, and then you'll have more of a dominant white splatter. So say you were doing a snow scene or something where you wanted ice involved. So there you go, there's those. Let's look at a couple of examples that I did on the last video, obviously, but we haven't got that one. So here I've just put a bit of painted book page, and I've got book page art. I think the video is where I showed how to do those. That's just one of the number labels I've made. Here I've made some faux postage stamp type things with those are Tracy Fox labels, I believe. But it just gives a little something, and I shove that into any of my ephemera, any of my journals or makes. But to be honest, these just sit in my ephemera folder, and when I've got the need for one of these, I just reach across and get it. So it just speeds me up. I mean, if I had to make that card before I decorated it, then that's probably going to take me a good 10 to 15 minutes to make just one card. Whereas this entire video is probably no more than about 40 minutes long, and we've made them and talked about them. I usually find if I'm having a session where I'm making 25 to 30 of them, give me about 2 hours and I've done 25 to 30 backgrounds, and that'll last me a couple of months, and then I'll work with them, and they're great. As I said, if you're going to cut them into a shape like a tag or something, make sure you do the stitching afterwards. If you're going to put a notch in them for a pocket, you need to put the notch in before you do the stitching, or choose not to do the stitching at all. So hopefully this time all of the parts of this video are going to transfer across my MacBook properly. I can edit it, and as you're seeing it, it did succeed. So this is me. This is all my social media and all of the portals to everything I do. So make sure you pop across and take a look. Please feel free to actually go over to like, subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and positive comments are always welcome. There's one on here that's not here, and that is I have a Pinterest account. So if you go to Pinterest and look up Ceri Griffiths on Pinterest, there's boards. There's got to be thousands of images on there under specific boards there for you to use as inspiration. So I'm Ceri. I'm Ceri the Crafter, that's C-E-R-I the Crafter, and I hope you've enjoyed this video, and don't forget I'll put the links to ShanoukiArt and Gail Augustinelli in the description box down there. See you next time guys, bye bye.